In this episode, how to study English when you're old. The difference between bear and bear. The last time Ana Giovanna helped someone. Luigi's favourite biscuits. What kind of food do Reza and Craig miss from their childhood? All this in this episode of
Aprender Ingles con Reza y Craig. Hello and welcome to this episode. If you're a new listener, you're very, very welcome. And if you've listened to us before, welcome back. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And with over 45 years of teaching English to learners of English, we're going to help you grow your grammar, vocalize your vocabulary, and perfect your pronunciation, taking all aspects of your English to the next level. How are you, Reza?
I'm very well, Craig. And yourself?
I'm fine, feeling good. So this episode is a mixture of your feedback and questions that we have answered for you. What's the first thing on the list, Reza?
First of all, we have a voice message from one of our regular contributors and listeners, Josep from Barcelona.
Hi, Josep. Let's listen to Josep's voice message.
Hello, good afternoon, Craig and Reza. Joseph from Barcelona, and again recording from your website. So I hope the sound is good enough. I try to speak clear and loud. I have a question regarding something we all know when we start learning English, the difference between man and woman and women in terms of singular and plural. But the other day I saw in a shopping mall, shoe store, and there was written somewhere in the walls, written to distinguish different shoes. It was written women's and men's, like WOMANS or MANS, just like that. And I was a bit confused, like, what's that? That's not correct, or shouldn't be, unless there is something we don't know about that, or maybe it's a colloquial way to distinguish. I don't know. Actually, it would be good to know what you guys can tell us about that. So thank you very much, and thanks for the biscuit episode also. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks very much, Josep, as ever, for your message. And it's a very good question, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, because you do sometimes see those signs and they're a bit confusing. I'd imagine he's walking through a department store or shopping mall and he's seen women's, WOMEN apostrophe S. Well, why would you have the plural of woman, women, and then another S? Or maybe men's, MEN apostrophe S. Well, the plural of man is men. Why the extra S? Can you explain?
Well, yeah, as you said, with an apostrophe, so MEN apostrophe S, men's, if it's written correctly, but these days people often don't bother. They don't make the effort to write the apostrophe. Even native speakers, I've often seen it in Britain and Ireland and other places, men's without an apostrophe. That doesn't exist. You'll see it, but it's wrong. There really must be an apostrophe in correct English. It means of the men. So men apostrophe S is of the men. Now, I'm sure you know, Josep, and all the listeners, that usually it's apostrophe S when it's singular, like, for example, the teacher's book. So that's teacher apostrophe S, el libro del profesor. And it's S apostrophe, first the S, then the apostrophe, if it's plural. For example, Reza and Craig, the teacher's podcast, TEACHERS apostrophe, because it's me and Craig. That's true. That's the normal rule. But because the word man and men are irregular, we put the apostrophe before the S because they're irregular plural.
And what I think Josep was seeing as he was walking around the shopping mall or shopping centre was that he saw a sign in the shoe department, for example, that just said women's. So there's a word missing, because what it probably means is women's shoes. Maybe it could be men's aftershave, but they didn't write the aftershave. Or children's clothes, the clothes of the children. So clothes was missing and he just saw children apostrophe S. So there was a word missing and that was the confusion. I think that's what may have happened.
Can I say that I once saw something very funny? I can't remember where it was now, but it was involving a word related to this, but not quite what you're talking about, Josep. Menswear means clothes for men. So MENSWEAR. WEAR means clothes, things you wear, menswear. Ladies wear, menswear. But the punctuation, the way it was written wasn't correct in the shop. And it was men swear, which I thought was very good. It's like, los hombres dicen palabrotas.
Was it two words, men and then swear?
They put a space in the middle, so it was men swear instead of menswear.
I'd have taken a pen and written women don't after that.
It was great. I can't remember what I saw. It was brilliant.
But be careful of those plurals. Remember, it's one woman, two or more women, one man, two men, and one child, two children. And the apostrophe S is the possessive, which in Spanish is the genitivo sajón. Next, we have an email from Luigi from Ecuador, who speaks about episode 207, in which we spoke about biscuits. And that's what Josep also referred to in his message. So, Reza, what does Luigi say?
Luigi writes, "Hi, Reza. Hi, Craig. This is Luigi from Ecuador, but now I'm living in London. Regarding your recent podcast about biscuits, about dunking things in your drink. If you remember, dunking means when you put something solid in a drink to get it all wet and then later you eat it. I have to confess, when I was child, he means when I was a child, I loved dunking bread in a glass of Coke.
That's unusual.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that, Luigi, I have to say. That mixture of flavors were amazing. Nowadays, I can't do it. I'm glad to hear it, Luigi. Sounds awful. It's not the same anymore. Oh, good use of anymore there. So, from this episode of my life comes up a question for you guys. Is there any food that in your childhood you loved? Well, he said you loved it, but we'll take away the word it. You loved, but now in your adult life, you can't deal with it.
Ooh, good question. Well, thanks for your question, Luigi. Well, I used to drink, when I was a child, I used to drink Nesquik, which is, in Spain, they have Colacao, which is like a powdered chocolate drink.
They have Nesquik as well here.
They do now, but I think it's fairly recent. You can also get different flavors, banana and strawberry, but I loved the chocolate Nesquik, and I used to eat it from the tin. I used to eat the powder because I loved the flavor. And I don't think that would be the same these days. So I haven't had Nesquik for many, many years. And things that are not the same as they used to be, well, dark chocolate digestives, which we spoke about in the biscuit episode, inglespodcast.com/207, they're not the same. Reza and I both agreed that the companies don't make the same biscuits that they used to when we were children. Another thing I miss from childhood that are not really the same, Cadbury's cream eggs, those milk chocolate eggs at Easter time with the very, very sweet fondant filling. They're too sweet for me now because my taste has changed as an adult. They don't taste the same. What about you, Reza?
Yes, I can understand where Craig's coming from because you, as children, like sweeter things. And adults tend to like more savory things.
We had sweet teeth as children, to have a sweet tooth.
Totally.
Goloso.
Normal. It's a goloso, that's right. Like Craig, I really liked biscuits, particularly custard cream biscuits. We mentioned that in 207, as Craig mentioned, the biscuit episode. Custard cream, so custard is natillas, that biscuit, which is like a sandwich and it had a yellow paste in the middle. Quite a sweet, sickly paste. I don't really like them now, but I loved them as a kid. And I loved opening them up and eating the custardy bit on its own and then eating the biscuit. Not now. I really don't fancy that. Also, as a kid, I had loads is like mogollon. I had loads of flavored potato crisps. So like cheese and onion, barbecue beef, roast chicken, prawn cocktail, salt and vinegar flavor. But now I don't really like them. Now I just like plain potato crisps, no flavor. Is what I like.
Did you have a favorite flavor when you were younger?
I did. And people from Northern Ireland would know what I'm talking about. There was a company called Tato, very well known in Ireland. And Tato's cheese and onion were, wow, they were to die for. They were a really, really strong, cheesy, oniony taste. When you ate them afterwards, your breath was terrible. It was as if you'd eaten a whole onion and a load of cheese. But boy, they tasted great.
Don't kiss anyone after eating a packet of those.
But now I don't really like them.
But when you go back to Belfast to visit and you see these crisps in the supermarket, or if you're in a pub having a pint, would you buy them or order them, or would you say, no, I don't like those anymore?
Occasionally I do. Just for old time's sake.
To remember your childhood.
Yeah, for the memory, I do. Even though I don't really enjoy them, but it reminds me of my childhood because it's a very distinctive flavour. Another thing I loved when I was a kid was a glass of milk.
You can have that in Spain.
Yep, but I just don't like it now. For me, milk goes in coffee or tea or to cook things and recipes, but to drink a glass of milk, no.
Oh, I see. You wouldn't pour as a child, you wouldn't pour yourself a glass of milk and have a custard cream with it.
Not now. But in the past, it was heaven. Biscuits and a glass of milk. Wow. What about you? Do you like milk on its own?
No, I agree. And also, I think the milk had a different taste when I was younger. I remember when the milkman, we used to have people when we were young who delivered the milk to your door, and you knew they were coming because you could hear the bottles rattling and clanging and making a noise in the milk float, which was the vehicle that delivered the milk. And the milk in glass bottles had some cream at the top of the bottle. Do you remember that cream?
Yeah.
And sometimes the cats or the birds used to take the top off and get to the cream. And the milk here doesn't taste as creamy, doesn't taste as good.
Well, of course, now it's homogenized. It's all mixed through, but then it wasn't, you see. That's why the cream separated and went to the top.
That was fantastic. The first couple of inches, the first 10 centimeters was full cream. It was fantastic. Next, we have a voice message from Joan from Girona, Catalonia. Let's listen to Joan's message.
Hello, Reza and Craig. This is Joan P. from Girona, Catalonia. A few months ago, I discovered your podcast, and I have to say that I love it. Every day, I follow your episodes. Congratulations. Good job. For several reasons, now I'm retired from work. I'm 61 years old, and although when I was younger, I studied English, for almost 40 years, I haven't used it in practice. I would like to ask you a question. Now that I have enough free time, do you think it can be useful to study English and advance in vocabulary and fluency? I think my level of English could be medium, and although I can maintain short conversations, I find hard to speak it, and plus I can't understand a movie in English. Also, sometimes I get lost with the phrasal verbs. Do you have experience with people of my age about possible difficulties to learn a language? What do I need to do? I would like some advices from you to start over. Thank you very much.
Well, hello, Joanne, and thank you for your message. I did reply privately to Joanne to give him one or two tips and pieces of advice, but I want to speak about this with Reza in general for anybody else who's listening who may find this useful. Reza, what do you think? 61 isn't old, is it? Not by any means.
No.
He's a young man.
Yeah, exactly. I have a class at the moment with about 10 people in the class. And the youngest student is 17 and the oldest student is 72. And they're an A2 level. And I suspect, listening to you, Joanne, that you're higher than that. You sound more like a B1 or possibly a B2 level.
His message was very good, very clear.
Very good, very clear. No major mistakes, but a couple of things we'll mention in a minute. So I teach a class with someone who's older than you and at a lower level. So that's a real challenge. But they're doing okay, so it's never too late. And they're in a class, this person's in a class with people of 17 years old, and they do okay. So if you're determined and you make an effort, of course you can do it.
So, Joanne, before we give you some tips and pieces of advice, we'd like to focus on one or two things that you can improve in your message, and advice is one of them, because you said, I would like some advices. No, advice is not a plural countable noun. It's uncountable. So it's better to say, I would like some advice, or I would like a piece of advice. So advice, uncountable, no S. Anything else, Reza, that Joanne could improve on?
Joanne, I think you said, I find hard to speak it, but you were talking about speaking English, so you should say, I find it, English, hard to speak.
And what can we suggest? Well, obviously you're doing one thing to improve your English, and that's listening to us, listen to our podcast. You could also reach out, which means get in contact with, contact some people in your area who you think would be interested in speaking with you on a regular basis in English to practice your speaking. So maybe you have some friends, some people in your family. If you're retired, maybe you go to a social club, or a neighbor perhaps will be interested in coming together with you once or twice a week for an hour, just to practice English and to speak together and have that regular opportunity to speak and practice your English. That's really, really useful. And it doesn't have to be a paid lesson, although you could also pay a teacher to help you with your speaking and your English, but you could just get together with a friend, a relative or a neighbor, or a group. If you have enough people in your area who are interested in practicing, try to get a small group together, think of a topic that you could discuss, and sit down with a coffee an hour once or twice or 3 times a week and practice your English. Any other advice, Reza?
Yes, you could also read blogs, books. You could watch documentaries. That could be on TV, or it could be on internet. It could be on ordinary digital TV, or you could watch pay-per-view or subscription TV. Things like Netflix or HBO have loads and loads of things in English, and you can watch them in English with Spanish subtitles, or even better, in English with English subtitles. And you get some great TV series on Netflix and HBO. You know, they're really, really good. If you don't understand them in English, well, watch them a second time in Spanish and then try it again in English. Also on YouTube, there are loads of videos about how to do things, like how to put up a shelf, una estantería. They're great because not only do they tell you useful things, but you get to practice your English. They explain how to do things in English, and you see instructions, and the video shows you what they're doing, so you can associate the words with the action. They're very informative and very useful.
Yeah, you just have to find things that you're interested in and then search for them on YouTube and watch a video about things that you're interested in, and that will improve your listening also. You can take a course. I don't know in Girona if there are any places where you could go to study as a retired person, language courses, sign up for an organized course of English, and that obviously will improve your English systematically working through a course. If you don't have anything available, you could go online with a platform that we know called italki. There you can find a teacher who can teach you over the internet using Skype. All you need is a computer and a microphone, and you can speak to a teacher when you have free time, a time that's convenient for you, and that's another way where you could practice with a teacher.
Another thing you could do, it can be expensive though, it depends, is travel. Traveling is great, ideally to an English-speaking country, but you know what, Joanne, it doesn't even have to be an English-speaking country. It can be to a country where they don't speak Spanish. It's a bad idea to go to a Spanish-speaking country if Spanish is your language. If you want to improve your English, not going to happen. But to a non-Spanish-speaking country, because you'll probably end up, acabar, speaking English.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter if it's India,
Romania,
Angola, Romania, Russia. You'll probably end up speaking English. But of course, it's even better if it can be a country where they speak English as the first language, because then you know at least the English that you're hearing will be correct, whereas it can't be guaranteed in a non-English speaking country.
And you don't necessarily have to go abroad, because there are places at this time of year, we're coming up now to the tourist season in the summer, where there are particular areas that are popular with tourists. So in our particular area here on the Costa Blanca, on the coast of Spain, there are cities and small towns where tourists go on holiday. And I'm sure in Catalonia, you have similar areas. You can go there for maybe a couple of days, check into a hotel, and then go to the bars and the restaurants where English people are and just start a conversation. You don't have to go too far to find English people, but you do need to be proactive. You do have to make an effort, maybe go outside of your comfort zone, approach people, start a conversation. But I think you'll find when people are on holiday, they're very, very happy to speak with you in English because they have the time. They're not working.
Yes, I mean, Joanne, for example, if you don't mind the sight of slightly tipsy, that means borrachito,
drunk,
but slightly tipsy middle-aged men and women, and the sight of red burnt skin because of the sun, then
sunburn.
You could go to Benidorm and chat English, to chat to anyone basically in English.
Yeah, there's the Costa Blanca, Costa del Sol, all of the English speakers there this time of year getting drunk and eating fish and chips. Anyway, thank you very much for your message and good luck with your English studies. Next, we have a voice message from Ana Fernandez from Madrid, who has recently been to Torquay and Stonehenge.
Hi Reza, hi Craig. It's Ana from Madrid again. How are you? Now I am very excited with the sun and the spring that finally stays in my city. Okay, I will talk about my first time in England. It was in 2003, a long time ago. I was a student and I was already finishing my degree, and I decided to go abroad to improve my English. But now I think I have the same level. However, during that period, I lived in a very pleasant place called Torquay, at south of England. This place is like a summer place for English people because it's so warm in the summer. Close to Torquay, there is a circle of megalithic stone called Stonehenge, which impressed me a lot. I know that there are many megalithic monuments in England. Could you speak about them in your next episode? Thanks very much for your podcast. It's very helpful in my studies. Bye. See you.
Well, thank you very much for your message, Anna. We understood it, and it was very, very clear. You know Torquay fairly well, don't you, Reza? You've been there.
Yes, I've forgotten exactly what it's like now, but I used to know it quite well because Torquay is in Devon, and I lived in Devon for 3 years. So Torquay, Torbay area, Brixham, Paynton, all those areas, Exmouth and all that. I know that area quite well. It is a lovely part of England, you're right. And it has the funny nickname of the Costa Geriatrica because there's so many old retired people there.
I thought
there's a lot of students
I
as
thought
well.
that was Bournemouth as well, because my parents were going to retire in Bournemouth before they decided to come to Spain to retire. So my dad actually bought a flat in Bournemouth, and that was part of the geriatric coast along the southern part of the UK.
Yeah, because the weather is a bit milder, más suave. It's a bit sunnier. It's a very pleasant place. But in these places, Bournemouth and Torquay, they also get a lot of young people, a lot of young students. A lot of people go to Torquay to learn English. It's a big industry there. Bournemouth too.
Yep. And you mentioned Stonehenge, Anna, and that's really strange because this last weekend I was looking through some old black and white family photos, and I actually found a picture of myself and my sister at Stonehenge many, many, many years ago. So that was a coincidence. And if you do go to this part of the UK, it's a really good idea to go to Stonehenge and see the stones. It's a really, really interesting monument and history of England.
Craig, was there anything you noticed that perhaps Anna could correct?
Just one thing, Anna. You said, now I am very exciting with. Be careful of the active passive adjective. Excited. So if you feel excited, then something is exciting. If the film is exciting, you are excited. If the English lesson is boring, then you are bored. So one is active, one is passive. And the preposition, it's better to say about. You're excited about something. So perhaps next week you'll be excited about listening to the podcast.
And you also said, I think I heard at south, but that's not right. Torquay is in the south of England. Okay. But we understood everything you said. And that was a very interesting message. Thanks very much.
And thank you for your idea about speaking about other areas of the UK that have historical interest, like Stonehenge. And we've definitely added that to the list, and hopefully we'll get to it in a future podcast. So thanks again for your feedback.
We've got another voice message from Marcos Forgiarini, and it's about bear and bear.
Yeah, we have spoken about this before, so I'll play Marcus's message because we always play your voice messages when you send them to us, except when maybe the recording isn't clear enough to understand. So we'll quickly play Marcos's message, and then we'll give you the episode that you can listen to, Marcos, to get the answer.
Hi Reza, hi Craig, this is Marcos. I wondered if you could speak about the word bear, because I know it has many use in English, like for example, also, but also is used in phrase like bear with me, and it used instead of the word resist, like resist, wait. That's all for me at the moment. I hope you are well. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much for your message. It's always good to hear from you, Marcos. I know you've sent in messages before. We did speak about the difference between bear and bear. That's B-A-R-E and B-E-A-R, the oso, back in episode 45. So if you go to inglespodcast.com/45, you'll hear all about the differences between bear and beer, which is cerveza, which is a pronunciation problem. So go back to listen to that, please, Marcos. And if there's something in the episode that's not clear, or you would like us to expand on and give more examples and details, then please let us know.
We now have an email that's from Pachi Ibanez, who's one of our Patreon sponsors. I'll read it out. Hi, Reza and Craig. How's it going? First of all, I would like to thank you for your selfless dedication to improve our English level. Thanks very much, Pachi. That's very nice of you. If you get close to Bilbao, you have paid the Cerritos that you want. You should improve the pronunciation of this word.
Cerritos?
Cerritos, right? I laugh out loud listening to you. I think you came to say
Zorrita.
Zorrita. Oh, we don't want to say that.
That's a little bitch, isn't it?
Isn't it? That's what he's written. We maybe mispronounced it. Maybe we said zorra, zorrita, something. I don't know. No, zurritos. So those little glasses of beer you get in the Basque country, which are very typical there, zurrito. They give you it in one of those very open, wide glasses, but they only put a little bit of beer in. Have you ever had one of those?
Yeah. Very nice.
They're really nice. When you say you have paid the Cerritos that you want, does that mean you've paid for us, Pachi? If you have, thank you very much. We wouldn't mind having a beer with you. Yeah, Craig?
Yep, we wouldn't mind having a beer with you if you paid for the Cerritos or no. So it'll be our pleasure. Next time I'm up to that area near Bilbao, I'll definitely get in touch and we'll have some small beers together.
Yeah. By the way, I love Bilbao. I mentioned in a previous episode how much I like San Sebastian. I also love Bilbao, another nice city in the Basque Country.
Yeah, me too. If the weather's nice, it's beautiful.
He goes on, finally, I would also like to thank and send an affectionate greeting to my last English teachers I have had in the Basque Country University, Diana Lindsay and Philip Ball. Best regards and a big hug, Pachi Ibanez. Thanks very much, Pachi. And there, we've done it. We've passed on your thanks to your last teachers.
Next, we have some feedback from Ana Giovanna, who is one of our Patreons. Anna's from Mexico. She refers to the last time she helped someone, which goes back to our podcast 202. And here's Anna's message.
Hi Craig, hi Reza, this is Ana from Mexico. It's my pleasure to hear your wonderful podcast weekly. And I think the last time I helped someone, it was to help foreign grandparents who were lost. They were British indeed. And they look for a very famous museum here in Puebla. And took them directly to the museum. Of course, I was able to help them thanks to you, because I feel much better when I speak English. I feel much comfortable with that. So, thank you guys for everything. Thanks for a million. Have a nice day, or a nice afternoon, or a nice night. No, a good night, wherever. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Anna, for your lovely message. And if you would like to listen to the episode that Anna gave us feedback on, go to inglespodcast.com/202. Any comments, Reza?
Anna, your message was very clear. Your pronunciation was good. There were maybe a couple of little grammar points we could improve. You said they looked for. I wouldn't use simple. I would use continuous, past continuous. They were looking for a museum. So these tourists you met, they were in the process. The action was in progress. They were looking. They hadn't finished. So it's better to use a continuous tense. They were looking.
We often use past continuous to give a background to a story we're telling. So, for example, in this situation, you could say these tourists were walking down the road. They were looking in the shops. They were looking for a museum. So very often when we're telling a story, it's a good idea to use past continuous for background information. One more thing, Anna, you said, I feel much comfortable with your English. Better to say, I feel much more comfortable. So, for example, I feel much more comfortable now with my English because of the podcast, or I feel a lot more comfortable with English.
You may be confusing much there with more. I don't know. But comfortable, you see, is an adjective. And you can't say much plus an adjective unless you say much more. You can't say much comfortable, but you can say much more comfortable. Really, what you're saying is more plus an adjective, more comfortable. But by adding much, was mucho más, much more.
So you can't say much expensive. You have to say much more expensive.
More expensive. You can't have only much with an adjective. No. You can have more with an adjective, or you can have much more with an adjective.
By the way, it's obvious to us that you're feeling much more comfortable because your message was very, very clear, and the way you recorded your message was very natural, and it was very, very good. So that's obvious to us. You're feeling much more comfortable.
And as you said to us, we say to you, thanks a million for your message.
Yeah, not thanks for a million, as you said, but thanks a million. So thanks a million to you too, Anna. So we often help you to improve your English by correcting you, and you help us with our Spanish by mentioning things that we've said incorrectly. And thanks goes to Angelica Bello, who does the transcriptions for us, because in episode 201 about poetry, probably me actually, mispronounced metáfora when we spoke about metaphors. I think I probably said metáforo because we were speaking about the masculine and the feminine. So metaphor in Spanish, metáfora, is feminine. And another error we made was when we spoke about frost, which is escarcha in Spanish. No. And not escarza.
That was me. That was my mistake.
Was it? I don't remember. I don't remember.
Yeah,
it's usually me makes the mistakes in Spanish.
No. Me too. Escarcha. Sorry, not escarza.
So thanks, Angelica, who always keeps us on the right track. Before we go, we'd like to say thank you to our wonderful patrons on Patreon, starting with our gold sponsor, Mr. Bruno, who does walking tours of 2 cities, Copenhagen, with his company CopenhagenWalkingTour.com. And also, if you're going to Rio de Janeiro, don't forget to get in touch with Bruno and try his walking tours of the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And you can find information for that at favelawalkingtour.com.br. All of the information and links are on his website. And to go there, go to inglespodcast.com/212, where you can find links to his website. Also, thank you to our other wonderful patrons of the show who are supporting us. They are Ana Giovanna, Dana Constantin, Pachi Ibañez, Manuel Tarazona, Juan Carlos Dorado, Maite Palacín Pérez, Lara Allem, Néstor from Luces Extrañas, Maria Gervati, Lorena Sarajarabo, Carlos Garrido, Mamin, Juan Leiva Garrera, Corey Finneran from the baseball podcast ivyenvy.com, Miren Full, José Luis Arguay, Agus Paulucci, Maria Raidamen, Manuel García Betagón, Raúl López, Rafael, José Manuel Fernández Picazo, Pilar Martínez, Gambate Blog, Igor Garmendia, Ignacio Espona, Kieran, Ana Herbara, Marina Ortez Pena, Juan Carlos Pantín Fernández, Alejandro Pluma, Alex Cuadra, José Emilio Villena, Esperanza Colmenero, Emilio Manuel Martínez Rivas, Chema Santa Cruz, Ana Fernández Monterrubio, Carlos Caño Domingo, Gustavo, Antonio Díaz, José Antonio Muñoz, Eva María Elzalde Martínez, Arminda Fafo, Carlos Sánchez, Elvira Cortés, Francisco Javier Alejandre Sebastián, and Reza, who are our latest patrons who are supporting the show.
Our most recent patrons are Andrea Mio, Rogelio Menéndez, Antonio Lafuente, Eloy, Pablo Martínez, Miguel, and Javier Correa Sambade.
Thank you to all of you, and I'm very happy and very proud to say that we are very, very close now to our goal of $100 per month, which are providing the transcriptions every week for you to read as you're listening if you need that extra support and reference. So if you would like to join that lovely long list of patrons of the show, go to patreon.com/Ingles Podcast, where for only $1 minimum per month you can get instant access to recent transcriptions of the podcast, lovingly transcribed by Angelica Bello from Madrid.
And not only that, as an added extra, you'll get to hear your name read out at the end of every podcast by Craig or me in a Geary accent, which is kind of fun.
And thank you also to Patricia Alonso, who continues working to transcribe episodes for you. We now have available episodes 1 to 20, 131 to 142. They are free on the website at inglespodcast.com. Reza, what's on next week's episode?
On next week's episode, Jose's possibly true story.
Okay, join us next week. Thanks for listening. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.